In this video, I'll talk about the purification at the Catholic Mass as described in the Roman Missal. I'll give a focus on the encouragement that it gives for doing the purification at the credence table. So why do the purification at the credence table? Basically because the Roman Missal says to. It has in number 279, the sacred vessels are purified by the priest, the deacon, or an instituted acolyte, after communion or after Mass, insofar as possible at the credence table. And this comes from a section for all forms of Mass. So why not do it at the altar? The altar would seem to have some practical advantages. So some practical advantages of doing it at the altar would be that the altar is bigger. It's got plenty of room. The altar is where the remaining precious blood and consecrated hosts are consumed. So the priest or deacon or instituted acolyte is going there to consume the remaining precious blood at the altar. Why not then just do the next thing, the purification there? The altar is more visible. We're encouraging full conscious and active participation. We want people to be able to see what's going on for the parts of the Mass. We have Mass facing the people for that reason, with the priest facing the people, and the altar being central is going to be more visible for doing the purification part of the Mass. The altar has a corporal, and part of the benefit of a corporal is that any crumbs can be collected on a corporal, and the corporal's already there at the altar and set up for that purpose. And also at the altar we have the Roman Missal, which has the purification prayer written in it. Purification prayer is something that the priest says quietly while he's doing the purification. So that's also going to be there at the altar. So lots of practical advantages. However, it comes down to that the dignity of the altar is important, and that's expressed in a number of ways. The altar is bound to. The altar is kissed. With the Rite of Marriage, it's got instructions that the marriage documents are not to be signed on the altar. That wouldn't be a suitable thing to be doing on the altar. And of course, marriage documents are important and they can be done publicly and visibly, but it's not something that is to happen on the altar. The altar has only a restricted number of items that can be placed on it, and I'll go through those in a minute, but it's also restricted in its use in that way. And it has in the Catechism of the Catholic Church, 1383, that the altar is a symbol of Christ. So, yeah, so these reasons about the dignity of the altar mean that it's not the place for the purification. So these are the restricted items that may be put on the altar. Of course, candles, the book of the Gospels at the beginning of Mass. During the Mass, the chalice pattern, and Paul and ciborium and purificator and corporal are brought to the altar and put on it. The Roman Missal and its stand can also be put on the altar, and also the monstrance. And of course, an altar cloth. You can have microphones, and you can have a crucifix on the altar. But something that doesn't go on the altar is cruets. Cruets aren't among the listed things that the Roman Missal has as things to go on the altar. And so I guess the significance of this is that if you've got cruets only on the credence table, not on the altar, then basically you need to be going to the credence table in order to get your cruets, or have your cruets brought to you. But I guess that's another point emphasizing that the credence table is the place for the cruets and for the purification. So how to encourage purification at the credence table? So here we have an altar in the middle, and whereabouts is the credence table. In this photograph, it's more visible than in a lot of other churches, where it can be hidden behind pillars, down flights of stairs. But this one, it's just behind some pews there on the left. And you can see it a bit better from this angle. If you there to the left side of the altar, you have the credence table. And here is where I think it could be better placed, because I've noticed that from videos on YouTube that a lot of people, a lot of priests, deacons, and acolytes, a lot of priests in videos I've seen on YouTube do not purify at the credence table. They do the purification at the altar. And perhaps by placing it here, they would be a greater inclination to be doing the purification. I couldn't find a picture of someone doing the purification at a credence table, so I made a video about it, and here's a still from that video, having a credence table not too far from the altar and not too close. And this next picture is where I think they've got the credence table too close to the altar, kind of like having a credence table as a lower shelf to the altar. And my problem with that sort of approach is that there's no point in having an instruction saying do the purification at the credence table instead of at the altar if the person in the pew isn't going to be able to tell whether the priest is standing at the credence table or at the altar because they're so close together. Or if the credence table's hidden behind the altar, then it's not achieving what it's meant to achieve in terms of communicating the special dignity of the sacrifice at the altar, as opposed to the lesser dignity of the purification at the credence table. So how to encourage purification at the credence table? Have a card with the purification prayer on it at the credence table. Memorize the purification prayer. So this is overcoming that problem that you've got the Roman Missal on the altar, but haven't got it at the credence table usually. Have the credence table fairly close to the altar. Have a big credence table. So yeah, the credence table's got a lot of items that can go on it. The Book of the Gospels. You might be using it to sign marriage documents. It's got all those items that go on the altar, go on the credence table, except for the candles and crucifix. But a lot of the items that go on the altar start off the Mass at the credence table. And you've also got the jug and the basin and the towel, which will be on the credence table, as well as, and of course, the cruets. So have a big credence table. Position the credence table so the priest can stand behind it, facing the people as he would at the altar. So again, this active participation, making it visible to people what's going on. That might be the reason priests use the altar when they should be using the credence table. So set up the credence table a bit more like, so you can do the purifications at the credence table a bit like you do the purifications at the altar. And promote an understanding of and compliance with the Roman Missal. And train altar servers to expect the purification at the credence table so they are not automatically bringing the cruet of water to the altar. They should be expecting the priest or whoever to come to the credence table. I've suggested having a big credence table, but reality may not have that ideal, so practice doing purifications on a small space, a small credence table. And also diet and exercise, encouraging priests to be fit and healthy, so that if the credence table does get located a long way down a flight of stairs, there's not too much trouble going there, despite wearing lots of vestments on a hot day. If you're fit and healthy, you should be able to do the purification at the credence table. So this, just want to, with this photo, this isn't the purification, this is consuming the remaining precious blood at the altar. So don't confuse the two parts. First, you consume the precious blood at the altar, and then transfer items to the credence table. And I've got some photos here on ideas of how to do that transferring of items. So to carry the 3 items, a chalice, a purificator, and a paten, it's simply picking them up and carrying them over to the credence table to do that. But I have noticed a lot of priests also transfer the pall and the corporal, as well as the paten, chalice, and purificator to the credence table, or set them up for that. And so this next photo is a way to carry the 5 items. And yeah, this is from another video that I made about doing the purifications at the credence table. But I've got the pall at the bottom, next to the corporal, and then the paten that is going to be purified on top, and in the other hand, the chalice and purificator. And then able to do the purification there at the credence table. So I hope this has been helpful. I'd appreciate any appreciate comments, questions, any advice on videos that do show someone doing the purification at a credence table would all be of interest.